Valentim Montenegro was the man whom the south of Minas feared and respected. Rich, powerful, and cold as death, his cutting gaze froze anyone who dared to approach. They said that his heart had been buried along with his little son years ago, and that since then he had lived trapped in a prison of gold and silence. Clara Mendes was the opposite of his darkness, a simple young woman, marked by deep wounds, but with a stubborn light that refused to go out. She faced her mother's serious illness, the painful betrayal of the past, and the suffocating poverty with a silent strength that broke the heart of those who saw her. Two opposite worlds, two shattered souls, an encounter that destiny was preparing with cruel hands, and at the same time, full of hope. The gray stone mansion rose like a solitary giant on top of the hill, surrounded by the black skeletons of the coffee plantation, destroyed by the cruel frost. Valentim Montenegro woke up every dawn before sunrise, his chest heavy as lead. He dressed with cold precision and walked alone through the dead fields, feeling the icy wind cut his skin as if it wanted to remind him that he was also dead inside. The silence of the mansion was deafening. No childish laughter echoed through the corridors anymore. No soft woman's voice warmed the nights. Only shadows and torturing memories that he locked with steel bolts at the bottom of his soul. Valentim had learned to love his own coldness, because feeling any emotion was like plunging a knife into his open chest. Beatrice, the governess, with a severe look and a heart hardened by years of service, entered the dining room that gray morning and announced in a low voice, "Sir, we found a new maid. Her name is Clara Mendes. A simple girl from the city, but she seems strong and hardworking." Valentim did not raise his eyes from the newspaper, his voice hoarse and distant like a distant echo. "As long as she does the job without bothering me, she can start tomorrow." And it was with these indifferent words that he, without imagining, opened a crack in the wall of ice that protected his broken heart. Clara Mendes woke up, startled by her mother's violent and painful cough coming from the room next door. Each attack seemed to tear her soul apart. The poor little house on the outskirts of the city could barely hold back the morning cold. At 24 years old, she carried on her back the weight of destroyed dreams. The father who disappeared, the boyfriend who betrayed her and stole everything, and now her mother slowly wasting away for lack of treatment. Even with her eyes red from contained crying, Clara forced a sweet smile as she entered the small and cramped room. "Today is going to be a good day, Mom. I feel it in my heart. We will overcome this together." She kissed her mother's warm forehead with infinite tenderness, packed her few clean clothes, and left the house with her chest tight, but carrying a stubborn hope that refused to die. Upon arriving at the imposing Montenegro mansion, Beatrice received her at the service door with a hard expression and a voice cutting like a blade. "The rules are strict and non-negotiable. Do not speak to the master if he does not speak first. Never look him in the eyes. Do not enter the West Wing, and never dare to dream of anything beyond your uniform." Clara swallowed the fear that rose in her throat and raised her chin with dignity, while Beatrice guided her through the luxurious and icy corridors. Firm and heavy footsteps echoed on the main staircase. Clara felt a strange shiver run through her entire body even before daring to raise her gaze. Valentim was descending the great marble staircase when his eyes collided with hers by accident. Just 1 second. A mere second, but it was as if a lightning bolt had crossed his frozen chest. Clara immediately lowered her head, her face burning, her heart beating so hard that it seemed to want to escape from her body. Valentim stopped in the middle of the step, frowning, bothered and surprised by his own violent reaction. Those brown eyes carried a pure and warm light that he had not seen in years, a light that threatened to melt the ice that kept him alive. He continued descending without saying a single word, but that short look remained marked with fire in his mind. 3 days of silent tension passed. Clara worked with perfection, trying to become invisible, until, on a gray and rainy afternoon, her trembling fingers knocked over an ancient rare porcelain vase, which shattered into 1,000 pieces on the shiny floor. Beatrice appeared furious, Valentim appeared shortly after, his look dark and cutting like a razor. "How much does this vase cost?" he asked, his voice low and dangerous. Clara, with tears shining in her eyes, but a firm voice full of dignity, replied, "I have no way to pay now, sir, but I will work day and night, without rest, until I pay off every cent of the debt." Valentim stared at her for a long time, feeling something move painfully inside his chest. He did not see cowardice. He saw pure strength, and that destabilized him like nothing else had managed in years. That night, alone in his dark office, he could not get her image out of his head. For the first time in a long time, a hot and uncomfortable spark burned through the ice that surrounded his heart. Valentim began to watch her secretly, irritated with himself for this weakness. He noticed the delicacy of her hands, the way she hummed softly when she felt alone, the almost loving care with which she touched the flowers in the garden. He hated himself for paying so much attention. One golden and melancholic late afternoon, he saw her kneeling in the back garden, planting simple roses that she had brought from her poorhouse. And then she smiled, a true smile, luminous, full of life and hope, despite all the pain she carried. That smile hit Valentim like a blow to the middle of his chest. The ice around his heart cracked with an almost audible snap. He quickly walked away, breathing with difficulty, his whole body trembling. The next day, in the vast library, Clara entered to organize the books. Without meaning to, she dropped a heavy old volume. Valentim bent down before her and picked it up. Their fingers almost touched. "Do you know how to read?" he asked, his voice hoarse and loaded with challenge. Clara held his gaze with surprising courage. "I know how to read. I know how to feel deeply, and I know that true dignity cannot be bought with any money, sir." Valentim was left speechless, impressed by the strength of that young woman. For the first time in years, someone faced him without trembling, and he felt a deep and dangerous respect grow inside him. The conversation extended, revealing layers of pain and values that neither of them expected to share. When Clara left the library, Valentim stood looking at the door for long minutes, his heart racing. Outside, the sky suddenly darkened. A violent and furious storm began to fall over the mansion, as if the sky itself wanted to push them toward the inevitable. The rain fell with fury against the old windows. Valentim paced back and forth in his room, restless and tormented, when he heard light footsteps in the dark corridor. It was Clara, carrying clean sheets. He suddenly opened the door. Their eyes met once again. "Why can you still smile after everything that cruel life has taken from you?" he asked, his voice hoarse, loaded with pain and contained anger. Clara stopped, her heart racing, but she replied with a painful sincerity that cut the soul. "Because if I stop believing that things will get better one day, I die inside, sir. And I refuse to die while my mother is still breathing." That night, protected by the storm that roared outside like a monster, the barriers finally fell. Valentim spoke of the son he had lost, of the guilt that consumed him alive every night, of the loneliness that suffocated him like an icy hand on his neck. Clara opened her heart and told about the betrayal that almost destroyed her, about the constant fear of not being enough for anyone. There were no touches, only raw words, silent tears, and a connection so deep and intense that it hurt the soul. When the storm finally calmed down, something irreversible had been born between them, something beautiful, powerful, and terrifying. The next day, Beatrice pulled Clara into a dark corner of the kitchen, her face serious and full of urgent concern. "Listen well to what I'm going to say, Gur," whispered Beatrice in a low voice. "Valentim Montenegro destroys everything he touches. He doesn't know how to lave, only bricks. Get out while you still have time and your heart is still whole." Clara felt fear rise in her throat like bile, but a much stronger and hotter flame was already burning inside her chest. 2 days later, Carolina Albuquerque arrived at the mansion like a whirlwind of expensive perfume and venomous arrogance. The rich and beautiful ex-fiancée looked at Clara from head to toe with pure contempt. So this is Valentim's new amusement. A simple little maid. The words cut Clara like sharp knives. Insecurity suffocated her, making her feel small and unworthy. That dark night, hidden in the garden, she cried softly, her chest tight with pain. Valentim found her there. Upon seeing her tears, something inside him broke violently. "Don't cry. Don't cry. She means absolutely nothing to me," he said, his voice hoarse with emotion. When Clara tried to pull away, he held her wrist firmly but without hurting her. The touch burned the skin of both like living fire. "I'm afraid of you," she confessed, tears streaming down her face. Valentim pulled her closer, their faces almost touching, their breathing labored and hot. "And I am terrified of what you are awakening in me after so many years dead." The tension between them was almost unbearable. The next day, a desperate scream cut through the air, coming from the orchard. The old gardener had suffered a serious heart attack. Valentim did not think twice. He picked up the gardener in his arms with strength and ran to the car, driving like a madman to the hospital with Clara by his side. On the way, she saw the cold and distant man disappear, giving way to someone human, vulnerable and full of true fear. At the hospital, while waiting for news in the cold and impersonal corridor, the confessions returned even more intensely. Valentim admitted his paralyzing terror of loving again and losing. Clara revealed her deep fear of never being worthy of a man like him. He held her hand with desperate strength, as if he were afraid she would evaporate. "You have already saved something in me that I believed was dead forever," he murmured, his voice choked. Days later, Valentim invited her to an intimate dinner on the veranda lit only by soft lights under the starry sky, far from all eyes. They laughed, cried, and finally admitted what they felt. In the library, in the early hours of the morning, he confessed with a trembling voice, "I fell in love with you on the day you broke that vase, and had the courage to face me with dignity." Clara, with her heart exploding with emotion, replied between tears, "And I fell in love with the man that no one else can see, the one that exists beneath all this ice." The next day, Beatrice tried to confront her one last time, but Valentim came down the stairs with firm steps and declared loudly for everyone to hear, "Clara Mendes is the woman I love. Whoever does not accept this can look for another job now." Months later, in the coffee plantation that was beginning to be reborn, full of life, illuminated by lanterns and small bright lights, Valentim knelt before her. "You brought my soul back from the abyss. Will you marry me, Clara? Let me love you for the rest of my life." With tears of pure happiness streaming down her face, she replied, smiling, "Yes, 1,000 times, yes, forever." And where before there was only pain, silence, and immortal ice, now blossomed an intense, dramatic love, full of light, a true new beginning that neither of them had ever imagined possible. If this story touched your heart, if you have ever lived or seen a similar story, leave your comment, share it with someone who needs to hear this today, and subscribe to the channel, but only if this message spoke to your soul. Thank you for watching until the end. May God bless you, and may true love always prevail in your life. End.